Hey, what's up, church? Just want to say thank you for supporting our Vision Builders initiative, LA.CHURch. It has been, it's been such a great experience so far. We have had hundreds and hundreds of people watching our content, interacting with our content, thousands of people downloading and listening to our podcast so far. We just finished season 1 and just so excited about jumping into season 2 in late July. We've got some amazing guests lined up. And so, hey, just wanted to thank you. Thank you for your support. Thank you for giving to the vision. Thank you for being a part of what we're doing at LA.CHURch. Really just trying to have conversations with people about faith and life and culture that maybe we wouldn't have inside the church walls. So, hey, listen, this is a brief overview of what we've been up to for season 1. So do us a huge favor. Follow us on Instagram, subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and subscribe to our YouTube channel because we're going to continue rolling out amazing content. We love you. Thank you again. And here's a little bit of what we've been up to in season 1.
You really mustn't, darling.
Morals come from this is what Christians believe. Christians literally believe that morality comes from God, and we believe that so all morality is transcendent, and because legislation or politics have to do with people, that's what politics are about, and legislation is about people, and thus making it moral. Like all legislation is moral. Should we attack this country? Should we borrow this much money? Should we create this law for children to learn about sexuality, or should we create this law for, to tax poor people this way or rich people that way? This is all moral, okay?
Jesus invites each of us to share the gospel according to ourselves. There are even 4 gospels according to 4 different people in Scripture. We are all different. So each of us has a different understanding of the gospel, and this diversity of gospels enriches Christianity.
Wow. Yeah, that's bogus. Absolute heresy, stupidity. Whenever people talk about things being according to the gospel, the question that I always want to ask them is like, what do you think the gospel is? I think like just the best place to always begin is 1 Corinthians 15 in terms of understanding what is the gospel. And the gospel is what Paul lays out, what was given to him. From what I understand, this was a kind of an early creed of the early church that was developed within the first 5 years or so after the resurrection of Jesus, which is just the simple facts of Jesus's life, his death, his burial, and his resurrection. And that is the gospel.
I guess for me, the question is based upon what you just presented, Jake, is the church at large observing the scripture to the point that it produces this good culture that you're talking about? I think that's where, when we talk about Kierkegaard, I think that's where Kierkegaard's going when he's talking about what Christendom looks like. And if indeed the church at large isn't observing biblical scripture and living that way, and I think this is what a lot of people struggle with when it comes to them leaving, is that they feel that the church isn't observing biblical scripture, that in turn their Christian culture is toxic.
No, I don't think that.
I think some
I think some of what you said is definitely an accurate depiction. I don't think the indictment is that we aren't observing biblical scripture. I think the indictment is that we are observing biblical scripture and they don't like the way that that's applied. But just to back up from that a second, I think the attack, and maybe rightfully so, is not on can Christian practice produce culture. I don't think anyone is being antagonistic to that. I'm just setting that up to say, like, okay, that in and of itself is a good thing.
Yeah.
I think the attack is against essentially Christianity being in bed with secular institutions like politics.
Yeah.
And I haven't read Soren Kierkegaard.
I love Kierkegaard.
But I believe his criticism was towards a church that was in basically a state-sponsored church. And so I think that's the context that he was writing in. And so we have to take those quotes kind of in context. And, to some degree, I guess, which is a point of debate for people, that is still the case in America in the sense that religion and politics still very much are infused with one another. And that is a point to be debated, because to some degree, your Christianity will affect the way that you view how a society should be set up and what things are just and unjust, what things are moral and immoral.
Right.
So it's really not a black and white. You have to completely remove the notion that Christianity would produce any culture internal to itself, but also external to the world in which it inhabits.
Right.
That's nonsensical.
When leaders begin to look at people as their source of strength, when leaders begin to look at people in a way that idolizes them, that exalts them into a position of unnatural obedience and just acquiescence, just saying, hey, whatever, basically turning church into a democracy, I suppose, where church is actually not a democracy. Church is not people up, it's thrown down.